Do you have a favorite spoon? Or maybe there's one fork that you always seem to reach for. Perhaps you have a favorite mug or a bowl that feels just right. Maybe you avoid metal touching your teeth. Or perhaps there's one thing you simply can't tolerate, like a fork with bent or uneven prongs. To someone else, these might seem like tiny details. After all, it's just a spoon, it's just a mug, it's just a fork. But what if they aren't? What if the things we eat with are just as much a part of the sensory experience as the food itself? Hi, I'm Dr. Jessica Bays. I'm a researcher in nutritional psychiatry, and I focus on how nutrition impacts mental health, particularly in autistic adults. In my recent series, we explored the sensory side of eating, why texture, temperature, and flavor can all shape our eating experience. But today, I'd like to zoom out even further because eating isn't just about the food, it's also about the environment around it, including something as simple as a spoon. Think about everything your brain notices when you pick up a spoon: its weight, size, its shape, whether it's metal, plastic, or wood, how it feels in your hand, how it feels against your lips, even the sound it makes against the bowl. That's a lot of sensory information before you've even tasted the food. For many autistic people, these details aren't just background information. They're part of the eating experience. And I think that's something we often overlook. We tend to focus on what we're eating, but the way we experience food is influenced by so much more than the food itself. For me, one of those things is wooden cutlery. I know some people don't mind it, but for me, the feeling of a wooden spoon or fork in my mouth is almost unbearable. It's a bit like the feeling some people get when they hear nails scraping down a blackboard. I also find bent fork prongs really difficult. Even if the fork works perfectly well, my brain notices that something isn't quite right, and it completely throws me off. Those preferences might sound unusual to someone else, but I know that I'm far from alone. One of the things I love about talking to autistic adults is just how different our sensory preferences can be. Some people love heavy ceramic mugs. Some people only like tiny spoons. Some people hate metal touching their teeth. Some people need chopsticks. Some people dislike plastic cutlery. Some people prefer a certain plate. Some people only drink from bottles with straws. And someone watching this might be thinking, none of those are me. And that's okay. The point isn't that autistic people all have the same preferences. The point is that many of us notice sensory details that other people might never think about. And once you understand that, suddenly these little preferences don't seem quite so strange anymore. One thing I've heard from so many autistic adults is the love of tiny spoons. Maybe that's you too. At first glance, it seems like such a small preference, but there are lots of possible reasons why smaller spoon might feel more comfortable. A smaller spoon might feel more predictable. It can hold a smaller amount of food. It may reduce the feeling of too much food entering the mouth at once. For some people, it simply feels easier to control. For others, just feels right. We don't yet have research telling us exactly why tiny spoons are so popular amongst autistic adults, but we do know that sensory preferences are highly individual. Sometimes we don't need a perfect scientific explanation to recognize that something genuinely helps. Maybe it isn't about finding the best spoon. Maybe it's about finding the spoon that's the best sensory fit for you. The same idea often extends beyond cutlery. Many of us have a favorite mug or a favorite bowl. Maybe it's the weight, the shape, the thickness of the rim, how it keeps a drink warm, or simply because it's familiar. When an object feels predictable, your brain already knows what to expect. That predictability can reduce more source of uncertainty during a meal. One person's favorite mug might be another person's least favorite mug. That's because sensory preferences aren't about right or wrong. They're about sensory fit. I think we sometimes focus so much on what we're eating that we forget about everything else. The lighting, the noise, the chair, the plate, the fork, spoon, and mug. All of these things contribute to what I call the eating environment. And for autistic people, the eating environment can be just as important as the meal itself. I think many of you have experienced someone saying, "It's only a spoon, just use the other mug. They're exactly the same." But if you've ever felt that one spoon is fine and another makes your skin crawl, you're not being difficult. You're having a sensory experience, and sensory experiences are real, even when someone else doesn't notice them. One of the things I love most about accommodations is they don't always have to be big. Sometimes an accommodation is buying 6 identical teaspoons, using your favorite mug every morning, choosing ceramic instead of wood, keeping the bowl that feels just right, using reusable straws because that's what feels comfortable. These things might seem tiny, but if they make eating feel easier, calmer, or more enjoyable, they're worth taking seriously. One of the things I hope these videos encourage is curiosity. The next time you reach for the same spoon or the same mug, instead of wondering, why am I like this? Perhaps try asking, what is it about this that feels good? Maybe it's the weight. Maybe it's the texture, the familiarity, the predictability. Or maybe it's simply the best sensory fit for your nervous system. Understanding ourselves isn't about finding a perfect explanation for every preference. Sometimes it's simply about noticing what helps and giving ourselves permission to honor it. I'd love to know in the comments, do you have a favorite spoon, mug, bowl, or other eating utensil? Or is there one that you simply can't use? You might also find my previous videos helpful as well, so check those out. And if you're interested in more evidence-based neuro-affirming approaches to nutrition and mental well-being, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.